Hey guys, this is Josh from Limelight San Antonio. I got two goals for you and your wedding. Number one, exceptional photos and video. Number two is a stress-free wedding and a stress-free experience. So with that in mind, welcome to my video of when should I shoot engagement photos? I've been shooting weddings for 15 years, and one question that I still get, or I get all the time, is couples ask me, when should I shoot my engagement photos? Well, there's a lot of things to consider, so we're gonna cover today 4 tips, 4 things to think about when scheduling your engagement photos. Okay, so number one is the season of your wedding. Now, for some people this is important, some people not so much, but something to definitely consider. So, are you getting married in the spring, in the summer, the fall, or winter, if there is such a thing in Texas? Not a life and death thing, but however, it can make a difference for some people. So, for example, I might have a couple who's getting married in May, but they do their engagement photos in December. So what ends up happening is in December, it is cold and you are wearing sweaters and you are wearing boots, and maybe that's a look that you like or that you want for your photos. However, when you get married and it's hot and it's spring, and then you put out these photos of you wearing scarves and hats and boots, it might be a little bit weird. So, not saying that this is a really big deal, but something to think about, something to consider is the seasonality of your wedding, and or if that ties into the look that you want for your photos. So a lot of brides who get married in the fall, they have a very strong fall theme. They have fall colors, little acorns and leaves and things that tie into that. So you may want your photos to tie into those fall themes or spring themes as well. So something to consider, because when you shoot in December and January, a lot of times there is much less greenery outside. The trees are kind of bare. The landscapes are different in San Antonio, so you definitely want to consider the seasonality of your wedding. Number 2, what are we doing with these photos? So most brides want the photo to put out at the wedding. That is definitely important, but there are other things to do with your photos. So many brides want to use their engagement photos for a website that they create. Sometimes brides want to use the photos for save the date. Sometimes you may want to use the photos for invitations as well. So let me talk about time frames, okay? Number one, when you shoot the engagement, let me talk about time frames. So typically, the time frame for save the dates is going to be 6 months. So if you want to use the photos for save the dates, then you might want to create, you might want to shoot it about a month before that, so that way you have the save the dates ready, designed, printed, stamped, addressed, and all that good stuff to go out 6 months before, because prior to 6 months, nobody can book travel anyways. And honestly, these are just general parameters. Don't stress. If you send your save the dates 5 months out, then that's okay too. Some other things to think about is maybe on the save the dates, if you are doing a simple design or complicated design, and how many photos you might need, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. If we're doing formal invitations, then that time frame is typically going to be about 3 months. So if you do photos and you create save the dates and you want to do one in the invitation, then you are covered. Website, that's up to you, but I would probably recommend doing the website around the same time as the save the dates. That way you can put the website on the save the dates, and a lot of couples nowadays use digital invitations, digital RSVP, and then you've got that all set up on your website as well. Now, if none of that matters to you and you just want the photo to put out at the wedding, then I would recommend shooting at least 2 months before your wedding. That's usually what we recommend. If you shoot more than 2 months outside the wedding, that's great too, because that gives us backup and contingency. Not like it rains very much in Texas, because really it doesn't. However, if you schedule an engagement shoot and it rains and we're shooting 6 months before your wedding, that gives us plenty of time, very low stress. We're able to reschedule for another day that works, and it's very comfortable. Whereas if your wedding is in a month and we have to reschedule a shoot, that makes it a lot more difficult and a lot more stressful. With that being said, please do not do your engagements or bridals the week of your wedding. We have done it before, and if it's an emergency, we can do it. However, it makes for a very stressful situation for you. The week of the wedding is when you will be dealing with all different things that you cannot even conceive, consider, or prepare for. You'll have all your family in town, and you're picking people in the airport, and you're making last-minute runs to H-E-B, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, and scrambling to do so much. So to try to squeeze engagements or bridals into the week of your wedding, yes, it can be done, but I don't recommend it. If you shoot within the 2 months or more, that gives us plenty of time for us to edit the photos, for you to review the photos, and it also gives us plenty of time for you to get prints, canvases, acrylics, all the really nice stuff that you can do and put out at the wedding. So doing that with more time versus less will reduce the amount of stress on you. So 2 months is the minimum. That gives us time to schedule, time to edit, time to review, time to print the products, the canvases, the acrylics, all the beautiful things that you want to do with your photos. Number 3 is, when is my wedding? How much time do I have? Short version, the more time you have, the better, the more options you will have. So it's better to plan and work in advance. If you're getting married in 2 months, then absolutely positively, we need to schedule them, we need to shoot them right away. When is now? If you're getting married in a year, if you're getting married in 6 months, then that gives you the luxury of shooting in the spring or the fall, which I'll get into in just a moment, which is usually going to be the most comfortable temperature-wise, unless you have a specific look that you're looking for, like a specific winter look that you want. But usually shooting in the fall or the spring is going to be the most ideal as far as the temperature and as far as the backgrounds and the vegetation. Number 4, this is probably the tip that we get asked about the most, is when should we shoot? So here's the nitty-gritty. The best times to shoot are in the spring, which is after it gets cold but before it gets hot. So we have a 6-week time frame where the weather's just about perfect, which is late February, most of March, and maybe the first week or 2 of April. So everything's getting green, all the flowers are coming in, and the temperature's very moderate. That is ideal time to shoot. And the opposite of that is in the fall. So first week of October going all the way into the first or second week of November is the other 6-week time frame when it is most comfortable to shoot. If we get into September, it's still technically fall, but it's still very hot. And once we get towards the end of November, things get a little hectic around Thanksgiving, and also that's when the leaves start falling off the trees and the backgrounds start changing. Now, let's talk about time of day. So what I normally recommend is at least 1 hour. We want to finish with at least 1 hour of sunset left. A lot of photographers will talk to you about the golden hour, and the golden hour is great. However, the golden hour doesn't always fit into our schedule, so we want to work with daylight in general, not necessarily center everything around the famous golden hour. We have lights, we have reflectors, we have things that will allow us to work with and without the golden hour. So this is going to tie directly in the time of year. The summer is the absolute most difficult time to shoot, but it's also a luxury of having the longest days of the year. In the middle of the summer, we have daylight all the way till about 8:45, 9 o'clock, which means we can go shoot after work, which we can't necessarily do in the spring or the fall. So shooting in the summer is an option. It's less than ideal temperature-wise, but we have longer days. So if the sun goes down at 8:45, we might schedule the shoot at 6. That way we have from 6 to 8, but if we're running a little bit late or behind, then we've still got a little buffer. And if we want to stay a little bit later for some sunset photos, we can. If we're going to shoot in the morning, we usually schedule the morning slot for about 10 o'clock. Now the temperature is going to differ depending on the time of year, and technically the golden hour is when the sun rises, which in many cases is going to be around 6:37 in the morning, which most couples can't pull off. So we don't really utilize the golden hour in the morning. However, we do want to shoot at a time that is convenient for you before it gets too hot. So if you can pull off a 9 a.m. shoot, that works well, but no later than 10, because if we shoot for 2 hours and we start at 10, that pushes us into noon, which is when it starts to get uncomfortable. So typically in the evenings, we want to start about 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours before the sunset time. And if we're shooting in the morning, we want to usually start between 9 or 10 in the morning. I know I've given you a lot of information, and so none of these things are hard, fast rules. These are all just guidelines, things we've learned over the years that help you kind of figure out, decide, and I'm just giving you things to think about so that you can consider all the factors in really deciding when or knowing when is the best time for you to shoot your engagements. This is Josh from Limelight. Thank you for watching this video. Remember, the most important thing that I want to accomplish for you and for your wedding is exceptional photos and a stress-free wedding from start to finish. Thank you for watching.